Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are doing a really focused deep dive into the often unseen world of educational administration in West Bengal, India. And our sources focus on this one. Critically important organization. It seems to function as the bedrock of public secondary education there. It's called the Advanced Society for Headmasters and Headmistresses, or the ASFHM.
And we should be clear, we're not looking at high-level academic theories of education reform here.
No, not at all.
Our mission today is to, peel back the layers and look at the operational reality. We need to understand who these leaders are, the headmasters, the headmistresses, who are running all these secondary schools, higher secondary schools, and even madrasas.
Right, and what pressures they're facing every single day.
Exactly. What are the systemic pressures? And how do they organize to, advocate for some kind of stability and excellence in the state? This deep dive is really a shortcut to understanding the nuts and bolts of public education in one of India's most significant states.
And the whole thing, the entire context of their struggle, it's defined by this huge, almost spiritual tension.
That's a great way to put it.
They're tasked with upholding this incredibly high educational ideal, but their day-to-day reality is just fighting for basic things. We're talking pay parity, grants, just administrative elbow room.
And that ideal is baked right into their foundation. We found this powerful quote they feature from the 19th century reformer Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar.
It's incredible.
It really is. It sets the bar for what a real education system should produce. It talks about the need to create a group of people who are responsible for teaching and who have complete mastery of the mother tongue, sufficient knowledge of various necessary facts, and freedom from the grip of the country's superstitions.
Freedom from superstition. I mean, that's the goal, right? Yeah. An informed, knowledgeable leader.
Yeah.
A social transformer.
That's the ideal headmaster.
But then you look at what the organization is actually doing now. You see the deputations, the protest videos, these incredibly complex financial calculators on their website, and you realize the battle for that high ideal has to be won on this frustrating, granular level of bureaucratic logistics first.
Absolutely. The contrast is so sharp. If your school's leader is spending their time trying to figure out a multi-decade pay audit or negotiating fines for a simple clerical error,
right,
they are functionally blocked from fulfilling that Vidyasagar mandate of being an intellectual and social leader.
So for ASFHM, this professional advocacy, it isn't a luxury. It's not some quest for personal enrichment.
Not at all. It is a critical necessity. They have to stabilize the system so that the real educational work can even begin to happen.
We have to remember that tension as we go through their demands. The fight for, a few rupees and a dearness allowance is tied directly to a headmaster's ability to inspire their community. So let's define this organization, the ASFHM. It stands as the principal organization for approved headmasters and headmistresses.
Yeah.
The HMs in government-sponsored and government-aided schools across West Bengal.
And there's a key word in their description that we really need to focus on.
Apolitical.
Exactly. That designation is fascinating and it's strategically vital. They explicitly call themselves apolitical, which means their engagement with the government, no matter which party is in power, is supposed to be based purely on the welfare of students, professional rights, and, educational purposes.
Okay, but if they're organizing statewide protests and they're demanding administrative control, fighting corruption, doesn't that organized movement, that Lor She Lorb chant we heard in the videos, doesn't that put them in a political conflict with whoever's in power?
And that's the core tension they have to navigate every day. Functionally, they are a political pressure group, a lobby, but they frame their demands as professional, managerial, and nonpartisan.
So by staying apolitical, they get a kind of moral authority.
Precisely. They aren't fighting for a party, they're fighting for the school system itself. And this allows them to organize professionals who might have very different political views, but they can all unite under this one banner of just making schools work.
And their scope is huge. The sources really emphasize that their reach covers the entirety of West Bengal. This isn't just a Kolkata-centric group.
Not at all. They highlight this by noting that conference attendees traveled from the geographical extremes of the state, they say, from Cooch Behar to Kakdwip, and from Alipur to Alipurduar.
And for anyone listening who isn't familiar with that geography?
Right. Cooch Behar is way up in the far north of the state, while Kakdwip is deep in the Sundarbans down by the Bay of Bengal coast. It just demonstrates this massive network, which is essential if you're going to represent the needs of schools in big cities and tiny rural villages.
And to cover that much ground, they have to have a pretty formidable internal structure themselves.
They absolutely do. They're a relatively young organization, formally registered on February 10th, 2021, but they've built up a serious infrastructure very quickly.
Who's in charge?
The leadership is clear. You have Dr. Hari Daskatak as the president, who sort of provides the long-term vision, and then Chandan Maidi is the general secretary. He's often the public face, the one driving the policy and advocacy.
And then below them, you have this multi-tiered structure for that broad coverage. The state committee, then district committees, and even subdivision committees.
Right. That internal structure is how they can gather up demands from a school in a remote area and a school in the middle of a city and present this single, unified, formidable voice to the government in Kolkata.
I think the best way to see the complexity they're dealing with is to look at the tools they've built for their members.
Oh, yeah.
We talk about administrative burdens, conceptually, but the ASFHM website has these specific financial calculators, and they reveal the sheer mechanical effort it takes just to get paid correctly.
Let's spend a minute on this because it shows how unstable this system is. They offer a comprehensive pay calculator. And this isn't just some simple app, it's a historical auditing tool.
What does it do?
It's designed to calculate your basic pay from the day you start in your job all the way to retirement, and it has to navigate multiple totally different state pay policies. They're called ROPA.
ROPA.
It stands for Revision of Pay and Allowance. It's the state's pay structure for all government-aided staff, including these headmasters. And this calculator has to track 4 different versions. ROPA 1990, ROPA 1998, 2009, and the latest one from 2019.
Wow. So just think about that. A headmaster who started their career in the early 90s has to track their entire professional life across 4 major revisions of state financial policy.
Just to make sure their current salary correctly reflects 4 different sets of rules, allowances, and pay scales.
It sounds like the state has basically just outsourced its own historical financial complexity directly onto the school leaders.
That is exactly what's happening. The headmaster, who should be focusing on pedagogy, on student safety, now has to become a historical financial auditor.
Right.
They're tracking these tiny changes across decades just to protect their own compensation and their staff's compensation. If they don't do this, they risk being underpaid or, having their pension calculated wrong when they retire.
And it gets even more complicated because the sources also highlight this intense need for a separate, specialized DA arrear calculator.
Yeah, the dearness allowance, or DA, that's crucial. It's the adjustment meant to offset inflation. It's cost of living money.
So the fact that they needed to build an advanced calculator specifically for DA arrears.
It means the state is consistently late in paying these cost of living adjustments. It forces the headmasters to become internal auditors just to make sure they get their legally mandated inflation-adjusted pay, sometimes years after it was due.
And we even see a recent victory tied to this. There's a circular from January 3rd, 2024, granting DA to various state employees. It confirms this is an ongoing real-time fight.
And this administrative nightmare doesn't stop with pay. If you look at the menus on their website, you see all the other areas they have to manage. Complex transfer requests, general, mutual, special categories, pension, provident fund, income tax compliance. And they're dealing with constant memos from multiple boards all at once.
You mentioned those before.
Yeah.
The WBBSE.
The West Bengal Board of Secondary Education, the WBCHSE for higher secondary, the School Service Commission, or SSC, the Directorate of School Education. I mean, the list goes on.
So in this environment, the headmaster or headmistress isn't just an educational leader. They're the micro-CEO, the HR director, the financial controller, and the legal compliance officer for their school.
And all of that administration takes time and focus away from the core mission education.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting because the demands they're making publicly aren't just a wish list. They're like a direct map of all the systemic pressure points that are stopping them from leading effectively.
Their demands are all about stability, dignity, and control. And they move really quickly from financial issues to these deep structural problems about their authority, which proves they know a decent salary is meaningless if you don't have the power to actually run your institution.
Let's start with demand number 1. Pay parity and recognition. Their goal is crystal clear.
Right. They want a pay scale at par with the head of institutions of state or central government-run schools.
And that distinction is everything, isn't it?
It is. Most ASFHM members run government-sponsored or aided schools. They have the same public mandate, often serve the same communities, and have the same accountability as the schools run directly by the government. But they get lower status or pay.
So they're demanding parity.
Exactly. They're essentially saying, we carry the same burden, the same responsibility for thousands of students and public funds. We demand equal professional respect.
So they're advocating for a whole separate pay scale that really reflects the gravity of their position.
The General Secretary, Chandan Maiti, he says this fight is about ensuring fair and just compensation. It's a fight for dignity. They also demand extra pay for extra work, which tells you their duties are constantly expanding without any corresponding pay.
Which leads us right to demand number 2, relief from the non-academic burden. The problem they state is so immediate. They say these duties often divert our attention from our primary role as educators.
It's a classic case of bureaucratic mission creep. The headmaster is the most senior, most responsible official in a local area, so other government agencies just offload non-teaching tasks onto them.
Can you translate that for us? What does that burden actually look like on a random Tuesday?
Okay, think about this. The headmaster is spending their afternoon filling out complex census data, or updating election rolls, or coordinating the logistics for some government scheme.
Tasks that should be handled by a different department.
Absolutely. And that's time taken away from, say, sitting down with a struggling science teacher to improve their lesson plan, or meeting with the parents of a student who is at high risk of dropping out. The real cost of this non-academic burden is a drop in educational quality.
And to even handle those extra tasks, they need to be mobile. Which brings us to demand 3, a conveyance allowance or transportation. It sounds minor, but it's critical.
It is fundamental. They explain they are constantly keeping in touch with various offices like Bikash Bhavan, which is the state secretariat, and other education department offices.
Why?
For numerous pupil-centric schemes and allied administrative tasks.
So they're basically mobile bureaucrats physically traveling between government buildings, often on their own dime, just to make sure student welfare programs like scholarships or midday meals are actually funded and implemented at their schools.
Right. This allowance isn't for fun, it's for basic administrative follow-through.
And then there's what might be the most important demand for the integrity of the schools. Demand 4, administrative authority.
Yeah, this is a big one. They are demanding administrative control over employees so as to ensure their accountability for the sake of wholesome well-being of the institution.
This suggests a really deep, frustrating problem, where headmasters are held accountable for everything. Dropout rates, test scores, compliance, but they don't have the actual power to manage or discipline their own staff effectively.
Let's illustrate the kind of paralysis this creates. Imagine a teacher who is always late, or maybe refuses to teach a certain subject, or is just negligent. If the headmaster lacks clear, immediate administrative control.
The ability to issue a warning that means something.
Right. Or affect their leave, or start a disciplinary process without some long, convoluted bureaucratic nightmare. That teacher becomes effectively untouchable. The headmaster's hands are tied.
So they're responsible for hundreds of students, but they can't ensure the accountability of the few staff members who might be compromising the entire school.
They're essentially just asking for the basic tools of management that should be part of the job description for any leader.
But the sources do confirm that this advocacy, as hard as it is working.
It is. The president's address says it clearly. We have successfully influenced policy changes through engagement with the state government. And the General Secretary confirms they've been successful in rectifying orders that have had an adverse impact on our members.
And we have powerful visual evidence of this struggle. There are photos labeled "Demanding Our Rights," scenes from Nadia District on movement, images of a deputation at Bikash Bhavan, a major government building.
And you can hear the energy and the chants from their protest videos. You hear Zindabad, which means long live, and that powerful rallying cry, Lorshi Lorb,
which means
fighting and will fight. This isn't quiet backroom lobbying. This is organized, determined, collective action.
And that dynamic formal negotiation, backed up by the clear ability to mobilize thousands of people, that's probably why their apolitical organization is so effective.
It's the unified voice of the entire educational community. It's hard to ignore.
So if we connect all of this to the bigger picture, it seems like the ASFHM's fight isn't just for the dignity of the headmaster.
No, it illuminates the structural failures and, frankly, the underlying chaos within the entire West Bengal education system. These leaders are the ones on the ground, forced to manage the daily fallout of bureaucratic decay and neglect.
And the most immediate threat to a school's survival seems to be financial. Their conference agenda specifically mentioned continuously declining composite grants.
This is critical. These grants are the lifeblood for daily operational costs. When they decline, the security of the schools is threatened. They can't afford basic utilities or teaching materials or minor repairs.
Which they also mentioned specifically, an acute shortage of repairing and maintenance grants.
Exactly. So imagine you're a headmaster trying to keep a safe learning environment when the state hasn't given you adequate maintenance funds for years. The roof is leaking. The wiring is faulty. You have to manage that crisis with insufficient funds, probably by taking money away from the classroom.
But the financial pressure is a double whammy, isn't it? It's not just a lack of funds. They're also getting hit with penalties.
Yes. They are actively fighting the imposition of financial penalties by the secondary and higher secondary education boards on various pretexts.
That sounds incredibly demoralizing, being penalized for the very complexity the state is forcing on them.
That's it exactly. The sources mention fines for clerical errors and for late registration fees charged per student.
Per student.
Per student. So it's a system of penalty, not a system of support. Think about the administrative load we just talked about. The headmaster is juggling ROPA calculations, transfers, circulars. If one person makes a typo on a registration form, the school, which is already broke, gets fined, maybe thousands of rupees.
And the headmaster is left managing that crisis, paying the fine, and running an institution that's actively being punished for human error in an overloaded system.
This kind of culture inevitably forces leaders to prioritize paperwork compliance over educational leadership just to avoid financial ruin.
Then you move to governance issues, and what seems to be the biggest, most explosive item on their agenda, the teacher recruitment crisis. They are demanding immediate and transparent recruitment of teachers and non-teaching staff, and they're not pulling any punches about why. They are fighting rampant corruption in the School Service Commission, the SSC.
And this is massive. The SSC is the central body for recruiting teachers. If that body is compromised, as they allege, it means schools are either severely understaffed or they're staffed with people who aren't qualified.
So headmasters are trying to run institutions where they can't find a physics teacher or a clerk because the recruitment pipeline is allegedly broken by corruption.
A crisis not of their making, but one they have to solve every single day in the classroom.
They also get into deeper ideological battles. They talk about opposing arbitrary decisions on curricula and concerns over the privatization of education.
Which shows they're fighting for the structural integrity and the public nature of the school system itself. And their advocacy also covers broad welfare rights, like demanding the inclusion of all school staff under the West Bengal Health Scheme.
So it's not just about them.
No, it speaks to their responsibility for the entire educational workforce. They know a stable school needs a secure, healthy staff.
And despite all these huge systemic problems, they do celebrate these small, specific, hard-won victories. We see that reference to a circular from May 2022.
Yes, about an additional increment for 10 years service for an HM to be counted from first date of service.
It sounds small, but I'm guessing it's a huge deal.
It's a hugely important correction. It means service time is calculated correctly, which affects your pension, your seniority. It proves that their organizational effort is working, even if the overall fight is enormous.
But we can't overlook the human cost in all this. The video snippets the ASFHM shared, they have this really genuine emotional weight.
The testimony from that one speaker is just heartbreaking. You hear about a 14-year fight, 131 days of struggle, and an incident where 150 headmasters had their assured career progression, the ACP, a key benefit rejected 7 times without any reason given.
And that speaker, you can hear the exhaustion in his voice. He asks the system, who will give me back those 14 years?
That's the psychological toll. These are highly educated professionals, community leaders, being systematically denied basic, earned career progression for over a decade. The system treats them with this arbitrary disrespect.
And the high-stakes nature of their advocacy is clear. There's a reference to an incident where police apparently just stood by and watched something unfold, and later had to rescue someone.
It emphasizes that the environment they're working in can get incredibly intense, even physically threatening.
It just underlines that their fight for administrative control or fair compensation isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a fight for personal dignity, safety, and the ability to run a school in a deeply fractured system. Okay, let's turn our attention to the present. The ASFHM just wrapped up a huge, very visible event, their second Triennial State Conference. And it really served as this powerful demonstration of their unified strength and their organizational maturity.
This was a major event. It ran for 3 full days, December 19th to the 21st, 2025, at the University Institute Hall in Kolkata, which is a very prestigious venue.
And the scale itself is evidence of their status.
Oh, absolutely. The attendance figures confirm that statewide reach we were talking about. Nearly 1,000 headmasters and headmistresses participated, traveling from every corner of the state.
So what was on the agenda?
Well, over the 3 days, 44 delegates were involved in these intense deliberations. And their agenda was basically a comprehensive recap of every single pressure point we've analyzed.
So professional deprivation, financial security.
All of it. The urgent need for relief from non-academic work, strategies for student dropout and child marriage prevention, the decline of grants, and of course the ongoing fight against corruption in the SSC.
And the involvement of high-profile dignitaries really shows that the ASFHM has achieved significant standing. These are not fringe actors.
Not at all. The conference was inaugurated by an eminent academic, Professor Dr. Dhruvajyoti Chattopadhyay, who is the Vice Chancellor of Netaji Subhas Open University. His presence alone provides huge institutional validation.
And he also released the new issue of their journal.
The 6th issue of the ASFHM journal, yes. And his address was very telling. He appreciated the headmaster's collective and responsible role despite the prevailing chaos in the education system.
Prevailing chaos. That phrase, coming from a university vice chancellor, it really validates the headmaster's experience of systemic instability.
It absolutely does. Then the chief guest, Triennial, who is the principal of RCCIDA College, he brought a really specific policy focus. He stressed the urgent need to strengthen science education through 2 critical levers: adequate infrastructure and the immediate appointment of necessary staff, not just HMs, but subject teachers and non-teaching staff. It directly links their administrative demands for recruitment to the quality of what's happening in the classroom.
And the special guest, Sri Shankar Halder, he provided what I think is one of the most astonishing bits of information from all the sources.
The humanitarian leader.
Yes, this incredible testament to the humanitarian efforts of these ASFHM members.
It's such a crucial counterpoint to any idea that this organization is just focused on salaries. Halder praised their work during major state crises.
He mentioned the North Bengal landslides, Cyclone Amphan,
And most remarkably, during the COVID-19 pandemic, they leveraged their statewide structure to become frontline responders.
It's just astonishing. These leaders who are spending 14 years fighting for their own pension turn around and use that same organizing power to become a disaster relief team.
Halder noted specific contributions, a donation of 6.5 lakh rupees to the Chief Minister's Relief Fund, and they supplied over 500 oxygen concentrators and deployed medical teams.
That tells you everything about their broader mandate and their value to civil society. They aren't just school administrators, they are community pillars.
They prove their value far beyond the classroom walls.
And finally, their standing within the administrative structure itself seems pretty solid. They receive messages of goodwill from the very education boards they often have to fight with.
Yes, leaders from both the West Bengal Council of Higher Secondary Education and the West Bengal Board of Secondary Education sent messages wishing the conference success.
So it shows a kind of necessary, respected relationship. Even when they're fighting, there's professional respect there.
It seems so. And we also know that the eminent novelist Srishendu Mukhopadhyay was scheduled to be there, which again shows their reach into the cultural and intellectual life of the state.
So what does this all mean? We've seen that the ASFHM is this incredibly organized, professional, and apolitical force. It's acting as a critical pressure release valve and as an advocate for educational stability in West Bengal. Their work is this constant, exhausting balancing act between the high ideals of Ishwar Chandra Vijayasagar, creating informed, superstition-free citizens, and the frustrating realities of tracking local revisions, fighting board penalties, and dealing with systemic fraud.
Which raises an important question for you, the listener. Given this explicit link between their professional demands like administrative control or transparent recruitment and core student welfare issues like preventing dropouts or improving science education.
The effectiveness of these school leaders directly impacts the quality of public life for millions of people. The key takeaway here isn't just about the details of a DA calculator. It's recognizing that the administrative friction at the very top of the system, the problems with ROPA, SSC corruption, declining grants, that translates immediately and directly into poor educational quality on the ground for every single student. When a headmaster has to spend 14 years fighting for their own benefits, that is time taken away from the students who need their leadership the most. Supporting these professionals is supporting the future of public education.
Their story is a powerful reminder that bureaucracy isn't just paperwork, it's a barrier to progress.
So before we go, if you found this deep dive valuable, we have an important request. Our team puts a massive amount of effort into the research and creation of these deep dives. We're meticulously sourcing and synthesizing complex, specialized material like the ASFHM documents and circulars we export today.
And supporting this kind of high-quality, detailed research is really essential for us to continue bringing you these insights, especially into these specialized, often overlooked topics that, truly define how the world works.
So please remember to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive. Your support really, truly helps us keep going and grow the channel so we can tackle even more complex topics in the future.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.